We'll just do a recording here. So what we are discussing next is use context. For that, I will tell you some basics of it, what we already know, and then we will tell you what is the context of using the use context. Yeah, I'm saying it's about communication. If there is a parent to child, we know already there is a very well, yeah, uh, aware of this concept which is called props. We can send in props from parent to child. What if you have a nested component? Another component like here, another child component. How do I pass the data from this component to this component? Again, using what is called as props. What if this component has one more component, child? Again, the answer is props. This is fine. Your component to component, if there is a parent to child, they will pass the data through props. Fine. But then the question becomes, what if this component wants to pass the data to this component directly to this leaf component or the child component? This is an hierarchy, huh? There's a parent to child. They are not independent components. This component exists somewhere in the component tree of this parent component. Imagine this is a parent app component and it needs to pass the data to this. How do we do it? The simple answer is you have to take multiple hops. You have to go from here to here. Again, you have to pass from here to here. Again, you have to pass from here to here. See, we are taking multiple hops. Yeah, we cannot directly pass. And for that, the answer, okay, how to pass directly from here to here. The answer is, you know, the answer React gives is what is called as use context. Now this problem, right? You see, there's a problem here. There's one problem here. There is one problem here. What is that problem? Extra work. It is doing extra work. To pass it to the child component in its tree, it is unnecessarily receiving this extra props from here to here, and then finally it is passing to the component. And this is actually called as, yeah, props drilling. This pattern, of repeating, unnecessary passing down to the leaf component from the parent is called props drilling. And we say this is a problem. Problem is just an extra overhead for the intermediate components. Yeah. So if at all we have one parent and one child. What if I have a tree like I'm bad at I think drawing. So like this is all component. What if this has got too many childs? I'm asking you, what if this has got too many childs? Yeah. The simple point is, what if this has got too many childs? Then this component will have like so many props. This has to do the extra logic. But there should be a way to pass this data from here to here directly. There should be a way to pass the data from here to here also directly. Yeah. The answer for that is React has created an additional hook which is called use context hook. What is the hook name? Use context. Fine. Yeah, we have seen this example. Now we will see how to use this hook. This is purely for passing the data, nothing more than that. But the use cases are very interesting ones when we use this use context. Yeah, use cases are interesting ones. Just to tell you some of them, okay, I would like to, theme. Which theme? Dark theme, light theme. Have you seen this? Yeah. So in websites, we will have a theme. We will maintain a theme saying, you know, let's make it dark theme. Let's make it, red, what to say, light theme. The theme switching. Or let's say I would like to store logged in user details or whether user is logged in or not. Yeah, which is called auth information. Then I will use this use context. Let's say I would like to, also store user information. Yeah. So, in these kind of cases, for example, another thing is, for example, I have a language. We have a language, correct? Whether it is English or so some websites will have a language switching. Yeah, that's called language providers. Yeah. So we create what is called as again for we say I-18, which is nothing but internationalization. These are the use case. But there is one caution. What React says is use this use context, use context, very sparingly. Getting what I'm saying? Yeah, use this use context with sparingly. Don't overuse it actually. Don't use it like props actually. Props you can pass it from any to any component. That's fine. Only problem is props dealing. Like as I showed you, it does have to have an extra work. Everywhere you have to mention that prop. But though this is a solution is there, don't overuse it actually. Use it for limited use cases. Why? This has some performance impact. Yeah, this has some performance impact. That's the reason use it sparingly. Okay, so with this understanding, let us see some examples now. How do we use this? Again, as I'm telling, every day I'm making this templates. If you go to, you all have will have access. For example, if I share one of this template, you can directly go to my dashboard and you can find all the examples previously I've done. Now, how do I do? All I do is I take this template, I'll fork it, yeah, and I'll make a new one. So instead of modifying the original one, I fork it. Now I'll say React use context. Fine. Do I need a to-do list now? No, I don't need a to-do list. You see now how with component we can actually kind of, you know, kind of what? Kind of eliminate the separate logic itself. Yeah. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll create child a dot jsx. I'll create another component called child b dot jsx. So now a is a parent. I mean a is a main child and b is a subchild. Yeah. So we'll say subchild instead of better naming subchild. A is, I mean, this is just simply a child, and the another one is child. Now, yeah, I'll show you the example of props drilling also, and then we will go to what is called as, okay, first thing is I have to create a component. How? Export, export default, export, sorry, function, before that I have to write default. Export default, you know what is the default function, child, and then here, nothing actually, this div, okay, this is saying child component. Simple message. Now you know how to create these components also. I'll do the same thing in subchild, but there nothing difference. So I'll just say subchild, and this is subchild component. Now in app, I'm going to import this child. Yeah, in the app I'm going to import sub child, and the arrangement is within the child, so it's not imported. So import child from dot slash, okay, dot slash child. You look at the file names. Yeah, we make it even uppercase. Okay, return spelling wrong, return, and it says React is not defined, so I'll have to do an import of React. Right, same thing into the subchild also, and also let me import subchild also here. Yeah, you see automatic import happened. Actually I don't have to type when it shows as a suggestion. How did that come? So I have to write less than, and then if I type, then you see suggestion will come. It will start looking for component, and then if you hit enter, then that import also line will add. Fine. Yeah, so only thing which is missing is I have to do an import, and I think I'm using a bit old template. That's the reason it's asking import React, otherwise it was not required actually. Okay, now what is the challenge? The challenge is I have to pass some data from here. Yeah, so let us say I want to pass a prop called theme. How do I maintain this theme? So in app, yeah, I will maintain a theme. Since theme is just a dark or light, I told you just a few minutes ago, I can use a simple useState. And this useState need to be imported. By default, it is, let's say, light theme. And where is the useState coming from? It is coming from React. Fine. Now what I should pass? I have to pass in a string value. Yeah. So since it is in a variable, state variable, I am using what is called theme as a variable to pass. And then I want to pass it to a child component. I want to display within the child what is the theme. Here I want to display the theme. So let's say theme, I would like to display theme. The theme is not coming as a prop. Yeah, so it needs a prop. Now you know that the way this component hierarchy is, yeah, the component hierarchy now right now it is subchild is not direct child of app. App has to pass to child and child has to pass to subchild. So from here again this prop will come theme. Now again I have to pass it. Now see theme is light now. Yeah, is it clear? But you see the extra work which is done in child. It has to pass this prop called theme and then it to the subchild. Now what if subchild is a component? It is not only just displaying the theme, also it has a button to toggle the theme. Yeah, it has a button which will toggle the theme. You'll be knowing that is how we do it, correct? Yeah, or generally that's where, or that is a place where we display the theme. Yeah, where we have an option to toggle. So let's say if I click on light, then it will be dark. If I click on dark, then it will be light. Yeah, I think one of the famous project which we were doing. Yeah, React projects Netlify. Yeah, there's one e-commerce project here. Let me show you the exact theme switch for you to understand. Yeah, this e-commerce app has a theme switching. You see this? Now this button is showing the current theme. Again, click on it. It shows the opposite theme. Now, but this theme information is not there exactly in this component. It is maintained in a global variable which is called state, or it will be maintained in some root component, especially app. So, okay. So now here I should also have an option to change the theme. That's what I'm actually now talking about. Generally, wherever I consume that, I will also have an option to change. Tell me now, how do I change this theme? Or how do I toggle this theme? Right now the state is there in app. How should I change this theme? And that should happen from this button. Anyone can give me a logic?
Yeah, we can add event handler on click.
On click, what will happen? Where I have to add
Yeah,
on
we
click
can
event?
update that theme.
Yeah, agreed. But you're saying I should add here
No, no, in the app component itself, if we update,
in the
it
app
will
component
work, right?
itself. I have to put this method is what you're saying. Correct.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and you can add.
If I add it here, how will I call this? But I have the button to change the theme in the subchild.
Yeah, for that button, we need to add on click event handler.
Fine. I'll add on click handler here. Now which method I'll execute for this?
Use state. You need to use state.
No, but use state is there in the app. Use state is there in the app. You see, I have three components. Use state is there in the app. But child is the one which is, which will trigger that event to change the theme. Yeah, child is the one which will trigger. But here is you are saying, okay, toggle the theme. For example, you are saying set the theme. Okay, so I should take the previous state, correct? Remember, whenever there is a state is dependent on the previous, if previous state is equals to light theme, then what? Then I should say dark. Otherwise, I can say light theme. Now, if this function I add it directly in the app, then it is going to work. This is how I'll do an state toggle, light to dark, dark to light. But my question is the button is in subchild. It means what? Tell me how do I call this function from the child? Or give me an answer. How do I call from child component? I want to call that function. Don't know. So which is basically you mean to say you are not, yeah, you're not actually doing what? Revisions. This I already covered. Yeah, it's the same pattern. We have said this function also can be passed as a prop, which is in the example of lifting the state up. Do you remember? We can pass also this function also as a prop in React. Now this prop will be available, yeah, as an additional prop here. Are you able to follow? Yes or no? I'm able to pass.
Yeah.
From app to child, I'm passing another prop because this is a function. This function is not invoked in the app, but it is invoked in one of the child component. Again, it is not directly in the child, it is in subchild. So then I can pass that theme. But also I would like to say it is possible to rename these props also. This I have not discussed actually. That's why I'm saying today. So we can even it is possible to rename it. So now I'm passing this prop with this name. That works, not an issue. Now in subchild, I'm getting it what name? Toggle theme. Now what I should do, as you said, I have to invoke this toggle theme. See the amount of work we are doing. Passing from here to here, passing from here to then subchild, And then in the subchild we are doing on click. Let's see if I click on it, will it toggle or not. Do you see the toggle is working now? It's perfect, it is working. But the only issue is what? Props drilling. And this is a simple scenario where you have app and child and subchild. What if this increases? What if more component come in between app and subchild? It becomes complex. Okay. So now the same example we will try to do. We'll try to do using what? Use context. So is there any question in this example what I've covered now? With the direct props and props drilling? You guys have to tell me.
No, no,
No?
no doubt. No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Others?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir, understood.
Okay. So now we'll see the syntax of using use context. Use context has two syntaxes actually. Yeah. The way we share the context actually is one, we create a provider. What do we create? We create a provider, and then we also do what is called as consumer. So whenever you want to share any information globally to all the components, so you will have to wrap the entire component tree within provider. I'll show you example. Don't worry. Yeah, just remember these words. Consumer. Now tell me who is a provider here and who is a consumer here in our example.
Provider means app component.
Provider is app component
Consumer
because
means
that is where
child.
the app is.
Yeah,
Child is consumer. Correct? So it means,
yeah.
so whenever this app has to provide to all of its subtree, then we should create a provider here. We should write a provider. For example, in this case, I will say theme provider. Getting it? So we usually put this theme provider, and theme provider is a component, by the way. What is it? Theme provider is a component. But now what is it providing? It is providing the context. Context is again kind of an state only. It's almost equal to state only. Generally, what is the English meaning of context? What is the English meaning of context? Yeah, definition. Yeah, circumstances. What is the circumstance now? What is the theme now? What is the language now? Who has logged in? The current state of affairs. Okay, fine. So now let me talk about actual use context syntax. So we need this theme provider. For this, basically, we have something called as context creation. I think I would say three parts. One is called context creation. The second part is context provider, and the another part is context consumer. Three things are there. So these are all like small syntax now. Don't worry, you will, if you start using it, you will also get familiar. The first thing is, how do we create a context? For creating a context, React has one method called react.createContext. What's the method name? It has this method called createContext. And this context will actually, give you an object. What is it? For example, let's say theme. It's going to give you theme. Okay. So this object will have provider. Theme dot provider. That's how we actually write. And the same object also has a consumer. Theme dot consumer. But in the latest version of React, we don't use this actually. We don't use this component. So basically, in simple, there's a method called create context. Create context. This gives an object which has two components. One is a provider component, another is a consumer component. Now, provider component we'll have to write in the app component. Consumer we will do it in the child. But the latest syntax it says you don't need this consumer. Instead, you can use another hook called useContext. For consumption, you can use another hook which is called useContext. Are you able to follow? Okay. So three things: context creation. This is first part. Context providing context to the entire subtree. We'll say entire subtree of component. Meaning, so we should wrap all the components within this provider. And then at the end, wherever you want to consume, there you call this use context. There you call use context. Fine. So with this explanation, now let us implement this exact theme context. Yeah. So this is what prop stealing. This is what lifting the state up. We already discussed. And this is an alternative to passing props. That also we have discussed. Correct? Alright. So using context in close children, using context in different children. Fine. So now step one, creating the context. How? This is method is there. You can directly say react.create context, or you can import this and then create the context. So while creating the context, we also pass in some initial value. So in our case, it is what? Our case what? Okay, theme context. Yeah. So we'll say const theme is equal to create context, and then we will pass in a value which is called light. That's a default value. Now I think we can just create without even passing the default values. So let's say create context like this. Generally it holds a string value. That's why it is up to us what it holds. But now in our case it is going to hold theme which is a string. Now this is a creation part. Then how do we provide? Now to provide this, yeah, to provide this, okay. So we'll use what? This context provider. They're only saying directly use it, but it is not directly using it is not possible. You should also have a provider. Yeah. Now providing it. How do I provide it? Wrap the context provided to the entire component actually. Okay, just a second. What did they export actually? Export create context. Interesting. They're only exporting level context, and then this level context only they're providing it. Okay, so they're not using this something called as level context. Fine, not an issue. I think we have this method also here. We can even check the documentation here. For example, create context. This is a reference of this full API. So now if you create, you see this is what I was saying. If you create some context, you get provider and consumer. Yes, for sure, this is the thing. So there is no change in the API. Yeah. So now instead of simply writing child, yeah, the second part, I am going to write a provider component. I told you we'll provide a theme provider. So theme dot, I will say provider, because that object gives you two components, and we'll have to pass the rest of the subtree as a child. That's why, you know, we'll have to wrap theme dot provider. Now where are you providing the theme? You just wrote the component. You have to pass in a value as a prop. So we have one prop called value prop. In this value prop, you can pass theme. Says create context is not defined. Yeah, as I told you, I can also import it from here. I can directly do react.context. That's also fine. What I will done? Yeah, I think I'll just make things easy for you. I'm going to remove this. So all I've done is adding or providing this context to the entire component tree or components of tree. Theme provider, I'm just wrapping this as a child to this particular component. So this is second part. Now the only thing we need to do is, okay, the only thing we need to do is we have to call this use context. Now where is the use context coming from? Again from React, I'll have to import this hook. Generally this helps me to consume the context. But which context? What if there are so many contexts? For example, this has theme context, then another one has language context, another one has auth context. How this hook will know that you are getting that context only, or which context you want to subscribe here? For that, okay, the thing is we need to export this. We need to export this we need to pass in this context information to that use context only. So that's where I'm saying I'll do an export here. Now this exported one, I'll import, yeah, theme from dot slash app. You understand? Use context, I exported. Yeah, I'll have to save it, then only it will be able to find it. I exported this theme. Now for the use context, yeah, now in case of use context, yeah, you can see this is what is created. I think, yeah, exactly same example is here. You can also later understand. We did provider, we passed the value as theme. Okay, good. Now consumer, this is a special syntax. You see what they have written? Read this. That's why I told you this is not now used. Now the final thing is we have to pass in this theme context which was created. That's where I'm importing it here. I think the use context API reference itself has this exact example. So now, yeah, I should have created with a theme context as a name, so that it would be easy. So you are saying use context as a theme. Now this will have a return value. This will have a return value. Use context. Now it will extract whatever value you provided in this value here. Now it is directly available in this theme. Yeah. So theme is already been defined as a prop. Now I don't need them. I don't need them. It says now toggle theme is required. Okay, for now I'll just keep only toggle theme. You see, now the theme is displayed, late value is displayed. Sir, now where it is coming from? There is no prop. But now where did we get the value from? Using the context. This line has fetched the value. From where? From the app. Yeah. Now you remove this theme also from here. Still it should work. If you think it is somehow passed. See, child has no prop called theme, but still subchild is getting light. From where? Context. What is it? Context. Just for the naming, okay, I'll make it theme context. Same way I'll update here also as theme context dot provider. Same thing here also, theme context dot provider. Fine. Then this child, no need to change anything. Here I'll just update theme context and theme context. Is it clear what I've done? Three-step process: creating, providing, consuming. Now this is one part is done. What did we do really? We only pass the value from here to there. But still, we did not pass this function, correct? Did we pass it? No. Now this provider only accept this value prop. So to the same value prop, if at all I have to send a big object, an array, everything I have to pass it here only. So now I'm going to pass it as an object because I have to pass two values. The same as in the previous case I told you action, I have to send both type and payload. How do I pass both? Make it as an object. If you only provision to send one value and you have to send multiple values, better thing is to make an object. Now this is an object. Both key and variable names are same. That's why we can just write a short form of this object syntax. Now what? Now this is the only change here. In case of subchild, you are not going to get theme. Here you have to destructure this value. One it is theme, another one is handle theme change. That's a function you're going to get. Yeah. So instead of toggle theme, I'm going to use handle toggle theme and sorry handle theme change. That's all. So instead of a value, simple value, now I passed as an object. Since we know destructuring, we can extract into separate variables. Now let's do a toggle. See, it's working. Does it receive any props? Zero props. But where is the theme? State stored somewhere in the root, somewhere in the top components. Do you see now? It's working. Yeah. So this is one of the use case, theme change. Now the same thing, yeah, be the component be how much ever deeply nested. Using the context, you can consume this information anywhere you want. It's not that it has to modify. Since it also needs a modify, that's where we just pass that function also. You see, it has got theme context, auth context. This will be some initial value. Yeah, what we pass to the create context is an initial value. Yeah, you see, if at all I have to provide multiple context, then this is how I'll wrap as a child. Auth context as a child of theme context. Again, page is a child of auth context and theme context. So that within page, within the page, there might be hundreds of components. All those components will be able to access this state, this context also, and this context also. That's why I am wrapping both the context, yeah, a page component within both the context. This wrapping is required so that all the child components within the page can consume this and consume this using this use context hook. Yeah, if at all it has to do a use context, there should be somewhere in the parent, somewhere in the hierarchy, component hierarchy, where the provider also should have been registered with a value. And this provider can only give value prop, no other prop. Okay, that's all is use context hook. Able to understand?
Yes, sir.
You understood?
Yeah.
So Gagan, you say yes because you already read this. You already